but I'm definitely not for the Conservative Party. I think they've done. So I'm sure everybody's seen by now there are Tory MPs that are defecting from the Conservative Party over to Reform, and I wanted to address it because there's loads of comments on my social medias about it. I think if we are looking at Reform prior to all of the Tories, not all of the Tories, but some of the Tories defecting, my concern with Reform was that they didn't have the experience in Parliament to be running the country. It was a bit of a concern. Even though I agree with a lot of their policies, the outworking of them is very different just to having a bunch of policies. So it was a bit of a concern. However, I know some people saying, oh, well, the Conservatives are, defecting to Reform, which makes Reform the new Conservative Party. I don't think that's how it's going to be. I think the Conservatives have gone over, especially Suella. She has the experience to be able to carry out the policies as the majority in Parliament. And so I think it legitimises Reform, if anything. I know that it's going to be controversial for a lot of people, but personally, I think those Conservatives that have jumped over to Reform legitimises Reform. I think they'll bring a lot of experience to the table, a lot of wisdom to the table. And I think what's happened is, for me, the Conservatives have gone way out of whack. I think actually the Conservatives and Labour are the same. They're very, very similar. They've seemed to have, rather than left and right, they've kind of merged. And so Reform are more kind of... how do you say it, like straight? How would you say it, Matthew? Like Reform, they're not like the Conservatives, but they're not like Labour. They're kind of this misnomer at the minute.
But you understand why some of the people who have voted Reform and if you heard Reform people say, I never signed up to be Conservatives 2.0. Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I think that's a valid argument. But I think that is because there is, and they have seen their own distinction between the Conservatives,
yes,
certainly that we've seen for the last 14 years, and Reform and what they stand for.
Yeah.
They want to stand for actually strong borders and elements of small c conservatism.
Yes,
it's like conserve our culture and our heritage,
right,
which the Conservatives have been a little bit more willing to just do away with. On the flip side of that, what I think we have with, as you said, the experience of these Conservatives coming over, it's the people who have that experience of having their hands tied.
Yes.
In under the circumstances of the previous Conservative government,
right,
and have come out since saying we couldn't do this, we couldn't do ultimately what the electorate wanted them to do because of this, because our hands were tied with this in Europe, yeah, and this, do you know what I mean?
Effectively, they can't do their job because they have red tape.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
And I think we've got a problem with that throughout our culture anyway, is red tape, which is stopping people to be able to perform their jobs effectively. But that's definitely, I know Suella's come out with an interview to say that what she was trying to do in the Conservative Party and what she was actually assigned to do, she wasn't able to do because of that red tape, where she believes that Reform would cut away the red tape, as difficult as that may be, because that's all involved in the European stuff, for her to be able to do her job effectively. So I do think there is maybe legitimacy about the Conservatives going over, but I mean, only time can tell. But what is for sure is the Conservative Party's done.
I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
It's the faces that ultimately were not happy with the status quo,
yeah,
of just trundling along in the Conservative government and turning up and paying lip service ultimately to issues of migration,
sure,
which the electorate in the UK voted effectively to bring down migration a number of times over a number of different elections, and it never got done. And those are legitimate criticisms of the government over that time. I think these people are the ones who are jumping ship, saying we recognise that wasn't good enough, and we see the opportunity of actually effecting change potentially with reform. I don't know. That's the way I see it.
Well, I think it either put off people, and people are not going to vote for reform based on the fact that it's got Conservatives in there, or it's going to be a positive for people to say, do you know what? They're a party that are attracting people with real conservative values. Rather than the party Conservative.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Conservative.
what I mean. Yeah.
It's almost like the Republicans in the States, isn't it? It's that conservatism. And to be honest, I've got conservative views, but I'm definitely not for the Conservative Party. I think they're done, as far as I'm concerned. Labour and Conservatives, the two-party thing going on, I think that's over. Those days are far behind us. So we can see, we can only wait and see what happens next now with reform. But for me, it legitimises them. So don't look to the right, don't look to the left. Look at Britain.